assistance or suppression? I read somewhere, where shall I go? To the left, where nothing is right. Or to the right, where nothing is left. A hopeless situation. That's a bit like what it feels like when one has to deal with social assistance or the participation law. Every year it is called differently, so every year a benefit recipient is cast somewhere else. The rules that a benefit recipient must adhere to and comply with are also becoming increasingly extensive, more unfriendly to people, and tend to violate human rights. But the principle is the same. Although it depends on the municipality where you live and on the relevant civil servant to what extent you, as the applicant, are confronted with the fact that you are worth nothing to this society when you approach that authority. You don't even dangle at the bottom of the social ladder. No, but you are completely under it and far from the sight of the working masses who have also learned that you are then holding out your hand from their money. Of course, that idea was helped into the world from above. People who have never had to deal with welfare benefits are therefore convinced that someone on welfare is lazy, stupid, often fat, and antisocial. These are all labels with beliefs of not only conceited and stupid people, but also numerous academic blockheads in their expensive suits, standing in the same line shouting, taunting, and commanding. And whoever says something about it, the civil service defends itself by saying that there are always people who like to hang out on the couch. Everyone who receives social assistance benefits is unceremoniously tarred with the same brush. Really? So, one morning the people who depend on benefits woke up and thought, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Oh yes, a great plan, I'm going on welfare. That yields a lot, and then I never have to work again. Many think it was a conscious choice by those individuals. Is unemployment benefit something to look forward to? Do you know what that looks like in real life? Someone must show 3 months of all their income and expenses at the start of the application. Okay, that is understandable, because it has to be tested whether or not someone is eligible for financial support from the government. Subsequently, all assets and debts must be mapped. The applicant must expose his privacy. Later, the applicant receives the result within 4 to 6 weeks, and in the meantime, they have nothing, not a penny. Some municipalities make it difficult, but you are entitled to an advance. Then you eventually end up on welfare and start looking for work. There is plenty of work, it is proclaimed, but the applicant is elderly and has no chance of a paid job. Some people who fall under age discrimination are nevertheless invited for a job interview to give them hope, but then they still get the stocking on the nose, because he or she has to make way for the cheaper young people. Instead of employers telling honestly where the problem is, the applicant is sent away with hopeful words such as, should something become available, you will be the first to know. In the meantime, the employers have already dropped their choice of a young person. This same story has been heard by dozens of predecessors. That invitation was purely for appearances, to fool the agency that monitors age discrimination and say, everyone gets a chance with us. And anyone who requests a subsidy to follow a course where the interest lies, then the job seeker is sent from pillar to post pending the result by the civil service. And if there is little chance of finding a job, then the benefit recipient is forced through verbal abuse to do volunteer work that is nothing more than slavery in a modern form. Those who want money must give something in return, they shout. And secretly those officials laugh up their sleeve and sit with a funeral face listening to the rightful beggar, as if they understand the situation that has arisen. And instead of dealing discreetly with other people's data, it is later beaten at home and in their own circles as if it were big news that someone is broke, unemployed, and wants to get benefits. Making fun of other people's misery is also one thing, and the government can do something about that to curb those official mockers on pain of dismissal. Thus, says the teachings of Vishnu. Man is worse than a predator when man is a predator. The pittance, i.e. the benefit that is paid to you monthly and is allowed to keep, does not come close to the minimum wage. But if you have worked, voluntarily or not, then you should be entitled to a normal wage. But no, someone who receives benefits is taken for granted, who is allowed to toil and be underpaid for the same work that a regular employee performs. And once you have been kicked out by the bureaucratic mill, you will never find work again and will remain permanently dependent on benefits and will have to stand the test of time. What do you think about a single mother who has just been divorced, has 4 children, and has recently moved to a small town? She was forced to leave her children alone in the evenings, because welfare wanted her to attend a course in the evening. She should go somewhere in the neighborhood and ask if someone can look after her children. And when she couldn't comply with that official order because she couldn't find a babysitter, her benefits were immediately cut. Isn't this degrading? Child support is for social assistance, no idea why. Isn't it specific to the children, just like child benefit? Yet part of her benefit was cut? There's more that I don't get, but I'm sure. The asylum seekers or fortune seekers are treated with even more respect and get everything thrown into their lap for free, because oh, how they have suffered a lot. People who experience inconvenience on welfare are also treated as criminals by some officials. The official assumes in advance that the welfare recipient is someone who fits the image of the prejudices, as a species that has created itself to be oppressed. Of course, there are also bad apples among the welfare recipients. Nevertheless, respect for that kind is also necessary because her hopeless situation and the meager benefit encourage one to compulsively survive in all kinds of ways. There are officials who look down on them from above, with a straight face, and where the so-called importance radiates. They feel great in that leading role without realizing that it is a role they have developed at the expense of the less fortunate. Moreover, they always think they are right, and if they are not right, they are right anyway, because they are regularly protected by their superiors. But just turn the tables by pointing out to the officials that you have gathered intelligence on them, just as they know almost everything about you. And dare to say to one of them, I know where you live, then the turnips are done. The law, which the government has devised for self-protection, is on their side, while that same law makes available all sources of information that may be consulted by any citizen and can also obtain the requested information against a fee. The whole system is based on nothing but modern-day slavery combined with oppression and fear-mongering. And that also reminds me of why faith originated. Also created by the High Lords, who wanted to control the people in order to exploit them, so that the rich get richer, and the poor get poorer and belong to the bottom of society. The legal system that protects the officials does not take it very seriously when it comes to finding the truth. Usually, an average victim is regularly pushed into the shit as deeply as possible by official prejudice. The victim then sees no other option than to look ahead and remain silent, and say something like, oh well, let the judge pass judgment. It is also widely known that civil servants and authorities can usually irritatingly avoid a case so that someone is found guilty a priori before a court judgment has been pronounced. Therefore, never trust an official, even if he is a beloved relative, friend, or girlfriend, because if he or she is presented with a choice, he will choose eggs for his money, and you will be unscrupulously strung on the spot on an imaginary spear. Civil servants are epigones, or sworn slavish extensions of government, who represent a legal form of oppression, legitimacy, and mental violence against residents on behalf of this authority. It's inexcusable and highly reprehensible, but it's not surprising that an impatient temper frog occasionally lets himself be swayed by a mental disorder and goes berserk. One person is not the other. Furthermore, it is not easy as an underprivileged citizen, in the event of alleged injustice by the civil service, to file a lawsuit against this in order to get his point. People often talk about equal rights, while in reality, legal equality is still a long way off when dealing with the official world. In general, the bourgeoisie has to deal with false rights. And sham rights include laws and rules that the magistrate has devised to legally mislead the citizen. And if a citizen is right after a collision with the legal power, then there is still the question of whether someone who stands in his right is also judged satisfactorily and justly, because justice is usually just as crooked as the Bible and Quran, from which one learns to be a bad person instead of the reverse. Therefore, the teaching of Vishnu says, never extend a hand of friendship, forgiveness, love, or mercy to an enemy who will eventually bite off your arm. Fortunately, today a lot of well-grounded citizens are aware of the fact that the majority of people who receive benefits have not chosen it. Yet the image of aid recipients is widely visible in society. Most benefit recipients do not want to hold out their hands, but want to be breadwinners themselves. They notice that the shame and contempt radiate from it. They also feel very uncomfortable doing so, and some people experience depression as a result. People who have a negative attitude towards benefit recipients assume in advance that there is always work, as long as people want to work, they say. They believe that living on benefits is a personal choice and that people on benefits are shy of work. After all, they get money without doing anything for it. According to them, they are lazy people who receive benefits. No one has the right to judge another, not even civil servants. No one knows what someone else has been through. People can have stories and have heard about another, but they still don't know what the other has really felt and still feels. And when one passes judgment on another, it is not really about that other person, but it is about the slanderer himself, about his or her insecurities, limitations, and needs. Nor should anyone be judged for the choices they made, as no one knows what options they had to choose from. But people can be condemned after they have learned the science of the truth in their freedom, but continue to engage in self-serving antisocial behavior. And don't judge people who have to deal with painful situations that someone else hasn't experienced personally. Don't judge people for their past, but help them prepare for the future. Nowadays, not everyone finds suitable work just like that. Many people on benefits want nothing more than to earn their income and be independent. As long as that does not work, one can be thankful that there is a system of solidarity somewhere in the Netherlands that prevents the less fortunate from being homeless. If we hold on to this solidarity, then the remark "hold up the hand" and the accompanying prejudice, disgrace, and embarrassment also belong in the dumpster. Call the animal by its name without hesitation, receiving a benefit, without any judgment or prejudice. One must stimulate each other in the right way, encourage courage and strength, and create work so that those on welfare become financially independent again and are happy with the work they have chosen and enjoy doing. The question now remains for the official. Do you assist someone humanely with welfare, or are you a heartless oppressor or a modern slave driver in a democratic guise? The answer to this question can be entered per individual. Dictum sapienti sat est.